This is Bruce Vilanch, red glasses and all. You may know me from Hollywood Squares, where I was just to the left of Whoopi, if that's possible. I'm Weird Wendon from the Ice Pirates, recognize my head. I was Edna Turnblad on Broadway in Hairspray, recognize these. And my friends Wilma Flintstone and Betty Rubble, who are having an intimate moment with you right now. We're all watching CF3.
Hello and welcome to another episode of CF3 TV. I'm Dane Michael.
And I'm Dames Marvs.
Dames Marvs, where are you broadcasting from today?
Well, I'm still in front of my green screen, but I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that I'm the pile of crap left over on Wendon's body when his head gets cut off.
You actually do look a little bit like Wendon, but that's beside the point. Speaking of Wendon, we interviewed him, Mr. Bruce Vilanch, the amazing writer and cult personality. He, of course, has written many Academy Awards ceremonies. He's been the head writer. He worked on Hollywood Squares. He's done a lot of stuff. What's the documentary that you watched with him about
Bruce?
Him? Get Bruce?
Bruce, yeah.
Very recognizable man, known for his assortment of hilarious t-shirts. And the focus of this episode is on his role in Ice Pirates. And so without further ado, we're going to bring you some of that footage from the interview with Bruce Vilanch.
Is this Ice Pirates time? He said, fixing his hair into a weird Wendon look.
Well, it's not Vanilla Ice time, so.
I haven't even opened it.
You know, he's a trumper, but I might still do him.
All right. Let's talk about Ice Pirates because, just looking at your resume, this stands out to me as a bit of an anomaly.
Yeah.
Right. Brilliant acting career in film.
Most of your stuff plays self on your resume.
Well, yeah, of course, because because when you're on television 5 nights a week as yourself, you become iconic in a way. I mean, and that happened to me.
How did, I guess, Ice Pirates get on your radar? Did you have an agent that said you got to do that?
Well, it started as a rewrite. What happened was MGM had Kirk Kerkorian, a developer, had bought MGM, and it had installed somebody as head of production, and he was found wanted. And so they took another person, a producer on the lot named John Foreman, who was Paul Newman's producing partner and made many movies. And he had a deal on the lot. And so they, like over the weekend, got rid of the head of production and put him in charge on Monday. One of the projects he had in development was Ice Pirates. And MGM had a deal with Robert Urich. So he had a bunch of projects lined up at MGM. And John Foreman thought this would be an easy one to help fulfill that time. So he pitched him the Ice Pirates, where he was like Indiana Jones in outer space, and he went for it right away. But they didn't like the script; they wanted it to be funnier, some other things added to it. John Foreman, who was a friend of mine, came to me and said, "Would you come in and do a rewrite?" And so I started doing the rewrite, and it went into pre-production while I was doing the rewrite, and I was flinging lines at them, and. During the pre-production, Paul Williams, songwriter, he was playing Wendon, and he quit. John said, "You can play Wendon," and all of a sudden I was playing Weird Wendon, playing character, and it's the character He's a compulsive gambler, and he's gambled his body away. And so now I was rewriting and playing the part. So of course I beefed the part up a little bit. I couldn't mess with it too much, but I changed some lines for myself, and we shot it. We were still feeding lines. I was rewriting on the set while I was playing the part, and it was a very quick shoot, and we had a great time doing it because it was so ridiculous. Stuart Raffle was a very funny director, but Angelica Houston, this was her second movie. She had made a Walk with Love and Death for her father years ago, and this picture she was playing an Amazon. And when her father saw this movie, he thought maybe she could do Prizzi's Honor, and she did Prizzi's Honor, and she won the Oscar. And Ron Perlman, who would later become the Beast on Beauty and the Beast, was in it, and John Roberts, who was on Beretta, Robert Blake, and a whole bunch of John Matuzak, the football player, he was in it, and Bing Crosby's daughter, Mary Crosby, we used to call Mary Frances. She was the leading lady. It's Frog Lady who's actually a frog. And I said, I thought of Marcia. There she is. And I said, I got somebody who can do this. My next door neighbor came in and they met her and they said, you got it. She got all the frogs. From then on, she spoke to me exclusively in frog. And I should point out, she went on. She was a real character actress. We did a nightclub act for her. She went to Broadway. She was in the original production of Grease on Broadway, playing the teacher, Miss Lynch. And then she was in the original production of the currently running revival of Chicago, where she was the first Mistress Mama Morton, who sings, you be good to Mama, Mama's good to you. So she created that, got a Tony nomination for it, and she's gone now, but she was hysterical. And she never resented it that I said to her, you look like a frog, and you're going to get this part because she looks like it. She also was very talented in it and made something out of it. And especially when you look at that photo of her in that makeup, this she had to deal with in 90-degree weather. We were out in the desert shooting all that. I mean, at least there she's got a breeze. And here's the coda to it all. It was kind of a half-assed hit when it came out. It was not disreputable. I mean, people thought it was a joke, but it did business. It made its money back, and it went on to be on television a lot because Ted Turner loved it. And Angelica, who only had 3 movies in her resume, won the Oscar, and they would show this thing over and over again because it was the only other movie they had. And to this day, she says to me, I cannot escape the fucking ice pirates. It's the first thing they ask me about. Now all these kids who are grown up and are interviewers, the first thing they say is, tell us about the ice pirates. Tell us about the space herb. So it's my cross to bear. We've remained friendly, obviously. And the other interesting note is, and here's a trivia thing for you, we were on MGM's fabled Stage 30, which was the Emerald City of Oz, and then they built a tank and they shot Esther Williams movies. If you don't know who Esther Williams is, she was an Olympic swimming star who became a gigantic musical movie star. And in all of her movies, she swam, and very, very talented. And it was her tank, and the tank has remained. Anyway, so we shot a whole bunch of stuff there. And when we left, the set was sitting there. The next picture that came into Stage 30 was Spaceball. And Mel looked at the set and said, I'm keeping this. We'll redress it. I'll save money. I'm not going to build a whole other spaceship lab. So all of those things, if you look closely at Ice Pirates and Spaceballs, you will notice a certain structural similarity in the art direction. That's all I can say.
Well, I know what I'm watching tonight after this.
Right.
And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But trust me, it happened.
But here you are.
Here I am. Here's my head being placed somewhere. They had several heads of me made because they pull my head off and it bounces down the stairs.
Right.
But I had to have a prop head, and that's an arduous process where they completely cover you in whatever the hell it is, paper mache, and you're breathing through a straw while it hardens, and it's kind of like waterboarding. I mean, I don't recommend it to anyone, even as a Halloween prank. But I had my prop head, which they gave me.
I was going to ask you if you
Well, the
had
good
one.
head they kept. The good head they kept, I think.
Yeah.
The prop head, like the cheek was fast and all this crap. Well, this is not it, but
It's missing the beard.
They sold me this on eBay and said it was the authentic one from Ice Pirates.
I think you got ripped off.
that is Jackie Bissett's prop head from the Jeep.
Yep.
And
so, when you go back and watch this, do you think sometimes, like, when you see stuff like this, like, was this produced by Alan Carr or something? Like,
no, well, John Foreman, who was married and had a family, had a similar predilection. He had the Josh Logan thing. He liked Mins, and he's gone now. And it manifested itself in stuff like that. But I think when they're in the white thing, is that where they're about to be castrated? And
they've pretended like they just got castrated.
Oh, they're pretending like they just got castrated.
Yep.
Tough to do in those outfits, but
yikes.
Michael Roberts especially, because he seems to be showing a great deal of hose there.
Have you watched this in recent years at all?
No, I haven't actually, and that's a very good question. I keep thinking that will, I keep thinking it's like a better sex tool than a hot tub. Say to somebody, "Come on, watch me in the ice bar." Some young man of an unsuitable age.
At least it finishes early.
It finishes early. Exactly.
Was there anybody you were friendly with that you got to party with, to hang out with? Was there anybody fun on the set you were around?
Oh, we all had a great time. I mean, I stayed friendly with all of them. I mean, I didn't form like lifelong close friendships, but I knew Bob. I knew Bob Urich when I was at the Chicago Tribune, and he was an actor in Chicago. And I had known him then, and Burt Reynolds came to town to do a play, and Bob was in it. And Burt's agent, Dick Clayton, signed him and brought him out to Hollywood. So I was kind of there at the beginning of Bob Urich, and we were always friendly. And Heather, his wife, and now he has a son who's an actor. But Angelica probably is of all of them the one who I've been in most. And I'm not that. We're not close. I mean, I've just known her for 40 years, and it started with that. So I don't think I made any like lifelong bonding friendships on that. Ron Perlman I see every now and again. He went from Beauty and the Beast to Sons of Anarchy, and where he's married to Katie Segal, who's a very good friend of mine. Katie was one of Bette Midler's Harlette. So we were very, very close. And then we remained close all through Married with Children and all that. So when Katie and Ron were making that show together, I went to visit. He gave me his book, and in his book, he dumps all over the Ice Pirates. Because the worst thing he ever did, he got into it, embarrassed by it. He doesn't mention any of us by name.
I can't believe that all these people, I can only imagine they haven't watched it in a long time, maybe since the premiere or whatever, have such ill will towards it, because
I don't know. I don't think that Ron did, but I don't think. And when Angelica, she had a real career. She's a director now, and so she views it as some kind of a throwaway. But the fact that it keeps coming out, I keep saying to her, this is like the Star Wars holiday special. The internet means you never can get rid of anything. You can't hide anything. It shows up, and you have to own it and laugh about it. And she does, really. We have somewhere I have, and I've got to ask the producers, when I had a clock, a bunch of us got together. I don't know why it's a clock. That figured into the script or not, but it's an Ice Pirates clock that we all signed. And it's all laminated. It's actually in the glass, and all of us I mentioned, plus John Carradine, the great character actor John Carradine, who was in the movie for a minute, I think playing a lord who dies, as I recall. but he's the father of Keith Carradine and David Carradine and the grandfather of Ever Carradine, and so head of a dynasty. But he was also a venerated actor, even back then at 83, and he signed the clock. It was like 6 or 7 of us, and we gave it to the whole crew because we really did have a good time. But I think the idea of the clock was what happened was, in the course of this is very good. In the course of the 8-week shoot, John Foreman was replaced as head of the studio by another person who immediately came and said, wrap it in 2 weeks, I'm cutting the budget. And so I had to say, that explains why the time warp episode makes no sense. Because the scenes that established time warp were cut. So, and Mittenderinnen, as we say in French, on the last day of the shoot, Culver City had a power failure. And we couldn't shoot the last couple of scenes that really would have that had been written to tie it all together. So it made some, and we never could do it. We tried to fix it. We tried to fix it in post by throwing in off-camera lines that somebody would say, but no, that didn't garnish. That was nothing. Garnished helped, but nothing helped. So it was released as it was released, and nobody really seemed to mind because they said it's so chaotic that what does it matter that it doesn't make sense? It's a lot of fun along the way.
My wife did comment that it ends rather abruptly, so that probably has something to do with it.
As art imitates life.
But yeah, I think the clock probably was like a riff on the time warp.
We were so under the clock, under the gun, and it wouldn't have done to give everybody a gun. So we gave them a clock. Yes.
An apple a day keeps the space herpes away.
Very good.
So welcome back, everybody. I'm going to now give you the synopsis for the film. In the far future, water is actually the most valuable substance. 2 space pirates are captured, sold to a princess, and recruited to help her find her father, who disappeared when he found information dangerous to the rulers. It's a real space opera with sword fights, explosions, fighting robots, monsters, bar fights, and time warps. Of course, I'm talking about 1984's The Ice Pirates. Dane, where do we even begin with this film?
Can I read you a very short synopsis?
Yes.
As a companion from the back of the Blu-ray, it says, "Have an ice day." It's a parched future, and water, the galaxy's only valuable commodity, is controlled by the evil Templars. Their only foes? A handful of daring ice pirates.
This movie should be badass as hell, dude. It really should. But I think also, I just want to point this out just for whatever reason, but the film was actually intended to be a serious sci-fi film. It had a $20 million budget initially, and they bumped it down to $8 million when they hired Bruce Vilanch to write it as a comedy. But they still had the same cast. So I think with this cast as a serious sci-fi film would have been better. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah, because this comes off as like Flash Gordon, but not as memorable. But it's much more Flash Gordon, but with a cast that is far more impressive and capable. With the likes of like Angelica Houston, Robert Urich, Ron Perlman. I mean, these people have all gone on to have incredible careers. Angelica Houston, Oscar nominee or winner. I think just within like a year after being in this. Yeah. So it could have been, but what it is kitschy and fun, and I'm happy that it wound up being what it is, because it is very interesting. And by the way, this is a movie that our friend Travis Goddard has wanted us to cover this for a long time, since like the second episode of our podcast or whatever. But now we're here, and this was the first time that I saw this, was getting ready to interview Bruce. And so I instantly went out and bought the Warner Archive Collection edition on Blu-ray. This is the only Blu-ray of it. There are no special features. But that's why we give you interviews with Bruce, who talks about behind-the-scenes stuff. Dames Marvs, give me one of your favorite lines from The Ice Pirates.
Oh, man. I hope no one minds, but I have no intention of facing this sober. Zeno says that. Jason, whose character's name came from Jason and the Argonauts. That's a no doubt thing that I recognize from the film. Here's whatever happened to we rape, we pillage.
Do you remember the scene with the pimp robot?
I do.
The pimp robot goes, "This be my bad chariot," when they're trying to get a ride from him. Like, oh my god. They're trying to castrate these guys, basically, in one of the most horrific nightmare scenarios in history.
That seems hilarious, though, because they're like on this conveyor belt, like this human conveyor belt.
Right, like
And they're
conveyor
all,
belt
"Ah!"
shaving. Conveyor belt shaving needs to be a thing, I think, right?
I mean, there's so many charming parts of this movie, and they don't fit to me with the rest of the movie. It's so weird, but that's one of the scenes that I absolutely love for how, kitschy and funny it is. But then they have these dark scenes where they're in these hall. It's just the movie doesn't tie together for me. But save
yeah,
that for
the
final
line I was
thoughts
going to
later.
talk about following that conveyor belt scene was when they're in the lineup here. We should take the black one, definitely. They do go well with the new wallpaper.
Jesus.
I was like, oh my god, dude.
Jesus Christ.
Did Bruce write that?
I mean, we had to have. I mean, that's right in Bruce's lane.
His pun, or like, I don't know. That's just a very dry racial humor, which you don't tend to get very often.
So, Dane, you mentioned the pimp vehicles. Those are vehicles from Logan's Run.
Are you talking
There's
about
so many reused pieces from different movies around that era that made this budgetary concessions made this able to be fit in the $8 million range.
No, you're not talking about the vehicles from the chase scene, though, right? Or like the Mad Max ripoff vehicles?
The car and the hovercraft. No, there are actually things from Mad Max in this film.
Like some of this stuff?
Yes, that stuff is from Mad Max.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing you can say is this movie couldn't decide if it wanted to be Mad Max or Star Wars or Indiana Jones.
Dude, Logan's Run, Roller
Ball.
Yeah, I mean, it had stuff from all those films in it.
And out of all of those, it was Flash Gordon, which is the one that it probably didn't want to imitate.
The things that I thought were interesting is Kevin Costner actually turned down the role of Jason. I mean, when we talk to Kevin Costner, we can be like, was that one of the roles that you didn't take that you wish that you would have?
The role you want.
He'll say no. But I don't know. Gene Roddenberry actually said jokingly about this film, the Ice Pirates was singularly responsible for bringing back the death penalty to California. I think that's a great quote.
There's some more great lines from this, and kind of the reverse racial humor. Like, is there any reason why he's black? They're talking about this robot or whatever. Sure, I wanted him to be perfect.
Nice.
It feels so stiff. The belt, I mean.
Nice.
What did you think of this?
And that was a little Princess Bride for me.
but well before that.
For
I thought
sure.
it was really like corny and intentionally so. They definitely knew that it was cheesy as hell. This has got to definitely be a Bruce Vilanch line. Don't drop me, you palooka. I just got my nose done.
Yes. Totally.
What was one of his other lines? I mean, he's probably writing these things for himself to say, but
I'm
I have
sure.
a splitting headache. Would you happen to have a Tylenol? As soon as he loses his head.
I love the way he says that line too. Would you happen to have a Tylenol? Just like your head's totally attached.
Templars, may they all end in thirst. And if you think about a society where water is scarce, like that's like basically damning someone to hell. They're like, that's the equivalent of rot in hell, you
Yeah.
scum sucker. Is Templars, may they all end in thirst.
That's a good line.
So it is good. Let's get to our final thoughts zone. We're going to start with Bruce Vilanch, who's going to also give his score for the Cult Filmometer. Take it away, Bruce. Okay, we have one more question for you about Ice Pirates, and it's a question that we ask all of our guests about the movie of the week that we're covering. And that is to rate the movie on a scale of 0 to 100 as a cult classic for our patented Cult Filmometer.
It's 100. It's 115. I mean, well, I mean, it's not legendary, is it? I mean, it's not like some John Waters movies. Nobody eats poodle shit. This movie.
Dude.
So, it's not.
It's legendary.
It's okay. 100. That's 100. Yes. What do you want?
Yes.
I love it. Love it. All right, James Marv. So we're starting with 100.
It only goes down from here. The first time I watched this film, I didn't get it. I hated it. The only part that was redeeming for me was Bruce, because I knew we were going to be interviewing him about it. And I was happy about that, because I could at least not go through that interview pretending that I liked this character, but I really did. And I communicated with him leading up to the show. I said, I'll just tell you guys about our little email exchange. I said, looking forward to having you on the show, Bruce. Just finished watching Ice Pirates, Wendon forever. And then he responded, ha ha ha, I'm still famous for my head. Which I thought was, if you know that he's openly gay, and he's been that since since he's been on television, it's funny. I mean, that's a funny thing to say. And I definitely got a chuckle out of it. So to share that with you guys. Like I said, the movie is disconnected. It's like a really poor man's Flash Gordon. The exciting parts aren't as exciting as the Flash Gordon parts, but has characters that are. There's even a guy that looks like the Birdman or the Hawkman in the prison with them. I mean, I don't know if it's coincidence or not. I love that John Mutasik, who is also in another pirating movie, Goonies. He played Sloth in Goonies, another movie about some treasure. But I was thinking about this too. Since Kevin Costner passed on this film, that might have been why he decided to do Waterworld in '95.
He's like, man, I have regrets about the Ice Pirates thing.
Yeah, so
let's pretend all the ice melted, and now I'm in this movie, The Water Pirates.
There's a lot of weird stuff that happened during this movie, and one of the things that comes to me is that, according to some of the crew members, the entire sound team was fired in the middle of the production and replaced without any explanation as to why. I would have loved to have known that when we talked to Bruce, because I would have loved to ask him if he has any recollection of that or what the deal might have been for that. But overall, I've watched it 4 times now, and every time I watch it, I find something else that I like about it. It is quickly becoming one of those movies that I can watch and will watch if I see it on. I'm starting to get what Travis Goddard or Travis sees in it. I want to love it because I love Bruce, and there's not many other examples of his work. Definitely check out Get Bruce. He's got a couple books. He was on our show because he's writing a book, and he wanted to jar his memory about some things that he hasn't talked about in a long time. I got my score here, and I'm going to save it for Dane, for when Dane's done.
Well, Bruce, we certainly did make you talk a lot more about ice pirates, I think, than most people who interview you do. So hopefully it jarred some memories loose. And actually, you can probably tell from the interview clips when he's talking about like artifacts that were being passed around at the end there. He rediscovered some memories, I think, or recovered some memories talking about ice pirates. Now, this movie, you're right, it's not as good as Flash Gordon. But Flash Gordon actually wasn't trying to be funny, I don't think, at all. This movie was trying to be funny, and so there are genuinely, I think, more laughs than you would normally assign to Flash Gordon. And some of those include the alien guy who's trying to take a crap, and people keep walking through and like bonking him on the head and stuff. I mean, that's just crazy. That's crazy stuff. The space herpes, things like that. Like, they never tried to be as off the wall in Flash Gordon as they did. It just wound up being that way for them. So yeah, this is like a great discovery if this is your first time seeing it, or if you want to find a movie similar to Flash Gordon to enjoy. Again, the cast is incredible, and it's fun to see like serious actors like Angelica Houston playing in this film, and she's great in it, by the way, when she has the standoff with the dude and like decapitates him. That's amazing. Ron Perlman's great in this. John Matusak, you can see his face in this movie, and he's actually a good actor in addition to being a football player. So he's a talented guy. Talented guy and gone too soon. So, but yeah, great fun. It's a breeze to get through, 94 minutes long. So I recommend picking this up. You can get it on Amazon or whatever. Despite the lack of special features, it's worth owning, and you should have it. Dames Marvs, do you have your scorecard ready?
I do.
3, 2, 1. Wow. He gave it a 69.
That's for Bruce.
I give it a 90.
The doity bastard.
You see? Pure stupid minds. Stupid.
It's an 86.33.
86.33. Wow, Dane. Wow. Puts it right between Poltergeist at 86.25 and Black Sheep at 86.67.
Wait, Ice Pirates is better than Poltergeist? Yes.
You did this.
And Bruce largely is
Bruce
responsible for it too. It's a cult classic, and not every movie that we've reviewed is like truly a cult classic in the sense that everybody agrees that it's a cult classic. You could definitely say that about Ice Pirates, though. And the score is what it is. The cult Filmometer is never wrong, and neither are we here on CF3. Please subscribe to Project Nerd so you do not miss the content that everybody is working hard to produce. That's it.
Here on CF3.